A steamroller is a form of road roller, a type of heavy construction machinery used for leveling surfaces, such as roads or airfields, that is powered by a steam engine. The leveling, flattening action is achieved through a combination of the size and weight of the vehicle and the rolls. The smooth wheels and the large cylinder are drum-fitted in place of treaded road wheels. The majority of steamrollers are outwardly similar to traction engines, as many traction engine manufacturers later produced rollers based on their existing designs, and the patents owned by certain roller manufacturers tended to influence the general arrangements used by others. The key difference between the two vehicles is that on a roller the main roll replaces the front wheels and axle that would be fitted to a traction engine. In many parts of the world, the term steamroller is still used regardless of the method of propulsion. This typically only applies to the largest examples. History. Before about 1850, the word steamroller meant a fixed machine for rolling and curving steel plates for boilers and ships. From then on, it also meant a vehicle. An early steamroller was demonstrated by Louis Lemoine in France in 1860 and in Britain in 1863 by William Clark and partner W. F. Batheau. The company Aveling and Amp Porter was the first to successfully sell the product commercially. In 1866 they produced a prototype roller with 3-foot wide rollers fitted to the rear of a standard 12 nominal horsepower traction engine. This experimental machine was described by local papers as the world's first steamroller, and it caused a public spectacle. In 1867 the company began production of the first practical steamroller. The new machine's rollers were mounted at the front instead of the back, and it weighed in excess of 30 tons. It was tested on the Military Road in Chatham, Star Hill in Rochester and in Hyde Park, London, and the machine proved a huge success. Within a year, they were being exported around the world, including to France, India, and the United States. A New York chief engineer said of one of these that, in one day's rolling at a cost of $10, as much work was accomplished as in 2 days rolling with a 7-ton roller drawn by 8 horses at a cost of $20 a day. Aveling and Amp Porter refined the product continuously over the following decades, introducing fully steerable front rollers and compound steam engines at the 1881 Royal Agricultural Show. Configurations. The majority of rollers were of the same basic 3-roll configuration, gear-driven, with 2 large smooth wheels at the back and a single wide roll at the front. However, there was also a distinctive variant, the Tandem, which had 2 wide rolls, one front, one rear. Those made by Roby and Amp Co. used the standard steam wagon engine and pistol boiler fitted in a girder frame with rolls and a chain drive to produce a quick reversing roller, suitable for modern road surfaces such as tarmac and bituminous asphalt. A number of Roby and Amp Co. Tandem rollers were modified to make a further variant, the Tri-Tandem, which was a tandem with a 3rd roll mounted directly behind the rear one. Roby supplied the parts, but the modification was undertaken by Goods of Royston. 10 Tandem and 2 Tri-Tandem Roby rollers survive in preservation, and one of the Tri-Tandems is known to have been used to construct parts of the M1 motorway. A variation of the basic configuration was the Convertible, an engine which could be either a steamroller or a traction engine and could be changed from one form to the other in a relatively short time, i.e., less than half a day. Convertible engines were liked by local authorities, since the same machine could be used for haulage in the winter and road mending in the summer. Design features. Although most steamroller designs are derived from traction engines, and were manufactured by the same companies, there are a number of features that set them apart. Wheels. The most obvious difference is in the wheels. Traction engines were generally built with large fabricated spoked steel wheels with wide rims. Those intended for road use would have continuous solid rubber tires bolted around the rims to improve traction on tarmac. Engines intended for agricultural use would have a series of strakes bolted diagonally across the rims, like the tread on a modern pneumatic tractor tire, and the wheels were typically wide to spread the load more evenly. Steamrollers, on the other hand, had smooth rear wheels and a roller at the front. The roller consisted of a pair of adjacent wide cylinders supported at both ends. This replaced the separate wheels and axle of a traction engine. Smoke box. In the conventional arrangement, the front roller is mounted centrally, forward of the chimney. In order to allow enough clearance from the boiler, the smoke box is extended forward substantially at the top to incorporate a support plate on which to mount the bearing for the roller assembly. This gives the distinctive hooded look to the front of a steamroller. It also necessitates a different design of smoke box door. It has to hinge up or down, rather than opening sideways. Due to the limited access available, access to the boiler tubes for cleaning is limited, and the brush usually has to be inserted through the small gap between the top of the roll and the fork. Special equipment. The front and rear rolls were usually fitted with scraper bars. As the vehicle moved along, these removed any surface material that had become stuck to the roll, to prevent a build-up of material and ensure a flat finish was maintained. Some steamrollers were fitted with a scarifier mounted on the tender box at the rear. They could be swung down to road level and used to rip up the old surface before a road was remade. Another accessory was a tar spray, a bar mounted on the back of the roller. This was not a common fixture. Manufacturers. Britain was a large exporter of steamrollers to the world over the years, with the firm of Aveling and Porter probably being the most famous and the most prolific. Many other traction engine manufacturers built steamrollers, but after Aveling and Porter, the most popular were Marshall, Sons and Amp Co., John Fowler and Amp Co., and Wallace and Amp Stevens. In America, the Buffalo Springfield Roller Company was a large builder. J.I. Case made a roller variant of the famed farm engines, but had a small market share. Other nations had makers including the Czechs, Swiss, Swedes, Germans and Dutch, which produced steam rollers. Usage. In the UK, a number of companies owned fleets of steamrollers and contracted them out to local authorities. Many were still in use into the 1960s, and part of the M1 motorway was made with the help of steamrollers. A few steamrollers were still being used for road maintenance in the early 1970s, and this may go some way to explaining why diesel-powered rollers are still colloquially known as steamrollers to this day. Preservation. Many steamrollers are preserved in working order, and can be seen in operation during special live steam festivals, where operating scale models may also be displayed. At some of the UK steam fairs and rallies, demonstrations of road building using the old techniques, tools and machines are reenacted by road gangs in authentic dress. Steamrollers feature prominently in these demonstrations. The annual Great Dorset Steam Fair has a section dedicated to road-making machinery, including a lineup of working steamrollers. Popular culture. British steeplejack and engineering enthusiast Fred Dibner was known as a national institution in Great Britain for the conservation of steam rollers and traction engines. The first engine he restored to working order was an Aveling and Amp Porter steamroller, registration number 3079 German marks. Built in 1912, it was a 10-ton slide-valve, single-cylinder, four-shaft, road roller, originally named Allison, after his first wife. Fred renamed the engine Betsy following his divorce, Fred's view being, wives may change but your mother remains your mother. Quote, This roller was featured in many of Fred's early television programs. It may still be seen at steam rallies in Britain and was in steam at the Great Dorset Steam Fair in 2011. Film. Unlike the often lethal movie roles by their diesel-powered equivalents, the film appearances by steamrollers are relatively benign. The 1934 short film Mickey's Steamroller involves a steamroller hijacking by Mickey Mouse's nephews, which leads to devastating but non-lethal results. A steamroller was part of the supporting cast in the 1953 British film The Titfield Thunderbolt, which encountered a GWR tank locomotive in the film. In the 1971 film Dad's Army, the Warmington-on-Sea platoon are sent on an exercise for Home Guard training. On the way, an incident that disables Jones's van results in Captain Mannering commandeering a passing steamroller to tow the van to the exercise. Unfortunately, on arrival at the training camp, Mannering and Jones discover that neither knows how to stop the roller, and they end up flattening the tents and equipment. In Allo, Allo, in one episode, Colonel Kurt von Strom and Captain Hans Geering drive a steamroller to infiltrate an old railway parade but find they cannot stop and accidentally run over and crush Herr Flick's Gestapo staff car. Literature. Several characters in children's popular fiction have been based on steamrollers. George the Steamroller appears in the Rev W. Audrey's Railway series books and also in the derived television series Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. A member of the pack, Buster the Steamroller, has also appeared in the TV series. Rolly is one of the main vehicle characters in the children's books and television series Bob the Builder. He is a green roller with a cab, enclosed power unit and no chimney, and so is obviously diesel-powered. Nevertheless, his official title is Rolly the Steamroller. This is an example of how use of the term steamroller to describe the modern road roller still persists in the English language. Music. Steamrollers have had an influence on popular music. For example, the group Buffalo Springfield named themselves after a steamroller parked outside the house. The song Steamroller Blues was written and performed by James Taylor in 1970 and subsequently became a favorite of live concerts by Elvis Presley. Verdi's Il Trovatore Anvil chorus is associated with steamrolling and power in some parts of the world. The name of American music group Mannheim Steamroller is the result of blending the word steamroller with Mannheim roller, an 18th-century German musical technique characterized by crescendo passage having a rising melodic line over an ostinato bass line, popularized by the Mannheim School of Composition. See also Steam. Also, the name of ex-Yugoslav and Croatian rock band Pani Valjak means steamroller.